Hello, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be me talking about all the books that I hope to read in the month of August. So typically with my TBR videos, I would just do like one big theme for the whole month, but ever since the reading rush, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have like 3 rollover books from the last month into this one. I also just couldn't really decide on what was going to be like a perfect last month of summer TBR. So for this month, I'm going to be doing multiple themes, and these are all just going to be books from like themes that I have like too many books in that'll make like too large of a TBR for a month. So doing this will like trim down my options for those themes while also still giving me the opportunity to do those themes as full months in the future. So with that out of the way, let's actually start talking about the TBR now. So if you don't know, back in July I read a bunch of contemporaries. Usually I'm not a big contemporary reader, but I tend to like to read them in the summer. I am filming this video a little bit in advance, so it is possible that one of the books I talk about here could be finished before July ends, but honestly it's pretty late into July and I kind of doubt it. What is it, the 29th or maybe even the 30th? I don't know what day it is. It's late in July. I don't think it's gonna happen. So the first of these books is going to be If I'm Being Honest by Emily Wibberly and Austin Siegemund-Broka. This book follows our main character Cameron, who's a popular girl at her private high school who has a reputation for being brutally honest. One day she says something in front of her crush that makes her feel like she's ruined her chances with him forever, so she decides to follow Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew and like make amends with everybody she has wronged over the years. This leads her to this guy named Brendan, and once she gets to know him, this makes her question like what she's doing with her life and also just with him. So what I'm looking for most with this book is just for like it to challenge me as a reader. This is not the type of book I would typically read at all, and it is especially not the type of book that I would typically like. But this cover here just gives me like some real summer vibes, and then I also heard that this book is supposed to be pretty fun. There's also a blurb on the back of this book from the Washington Post that says like this is supposed to have some conversations about feminism and then also just like a lot of character growth. So I will definitely be keeping an eye out for that, but also these authors seem to have, I don't know if you can see that, but some pretty cute covers other than this one, so maybe I'll check those out too if this goes well. So next we have Summer Blue by Akemi Bowman. So this book follows our main character Rumi, who loves to write music with her younger sister Leah. However, one day Leah dies in a car accident. After this occurs, Rumi's mother ships her off to go live in Hawaii, where Rumi has to like learn to navigate her own losses and her grief. Her goal is to find her way back to making music while also trying to finish the song her and her sister never got to. So if I'm looking for fun with If I'm Being Honest, I'm looking for this one here to just like tear me apart. I have not had a book yet this year that has actually made me cry. There have been some that have been close, but none have gotten there yet. I'm thinking this one could be the one. I feel like this book just has like an opportunity to just like blow me away. Like I feel like it could be really beautiful. So yes, my expectations are high for this, and I guess we'll just see if it lives up to them. So the last book for this theme is The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. So this book follows our main character Cal, who is a popular social media journalist. He and his family are like thrusted into a huge media circus when they move from Houston to New York when his father is like in this NASA space program thing. It is in the middle of all of this that Cal ends up being Leon, and then their connection and their romance ends up evolving just as fast as all of the craziness surrounding the mission. The secrets regarding the mission begin to become uncovered, and then Cal has to try to figure out how to report this information without hurting the ones he cares about. So the thing that first attracted me to this book is it's just absolutely beautiful cover, and honestly it probably wasn't going to take much more after seeing this cover to like make me want to read it. But also what intrigues me about the plot is I don't think I've ever read a book that like deals with like NASA and space stuff that isn't like a sci-fi, and it sounds like it's going to be like a pretty big portion of this plot here, so I'm looking forward to seeing like how it's incorporated throughout this. Also, this book seems to be romance heavy. All 3 of these actually look like they could be romance heavy, so maybe I could find a cute romance out of one of them. So that's going to be it for the first theme. Now I'm going to move on to the second one, and that theme is going to be like thieves. I think I'm going to call it that. So there's a couple things I want from picking this theme. First and foremost, I want morally gray characters and morally gray activities. Or if anybody wants to go full villain, honestly I'm down for that too. And the second thing, because it is still summer, I do still want it to feel summery. So the first book that I will be going with is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This follows a ship that has a crew of girls who all lost their families and their homes to this corrupted warlord and his army. We follow our main character, who is the captain of this ship, when her and her crew are attacked by the warlord's army, and then a member of that army actually helps them out. This makes her question whether this boy is actually a threat, or if he actually wants to help, or if he could be the key to like taking down the warlord once and for all. So since it's still summer, I really wanted to be like near the ocean, and I have quite a few books that like feel kind of piratey, but this is the one I picked out. I'm looking forward to like found family and just in general women working together as a team. The covers for this series also look like super fun and like action filled, so hopefully I'm going to be getting like a lot of that in here. I've talked about revenge stories a lot on my channel and how I typically enjoy those, so hopefully I enjoyed this one too. So if Seafire is going to keep me near the ocean, the second book that I wanted to pick, I wanted it to like keep me near the sand. So for this I chose a desert fantasy, and that is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. This book is set in a world that is very unforgiving to humans, especially if you are poor, orphaned, or female. Our main character character falls into all three of these categories, and she just really wants to leave her town before she ends up married or dead. She then meets this guy, and then she sees him as like the perfect escape route. So the back of this book says our main character has never been an outlaw, a thief, or a spy, but that all changes once the story gets going. So seeing the word thief there was the perfect excuse I needed to finally throw this in my TBR for the month. I've also seen a lot of good things about this author's writing style, and the story seems to have like a western vibe because our main character is a gunslinger. I just read my first ever western back when I read The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davis during the reading rush a couple weeks ago, and I had a really good time with that. Now I don't think that's going to necessarily mean that I'm going to like be into and like all westerns. This one I'm pretty sure is like mixed in with like some Middle Eastern fantasy and magic. Overall it seems like a pretty interesting setting. I'm looking forward to seeing like how everything's incorporated together. I'm also just really looking forward to like figuring out where the story is going. Like based on what I read from the synopsis, I'm not sure I have like a complete understanding about what this story is about, so I'm looking forward to figuring that out. So that is going to be it for that theme. So now we're going to move on to the next one, and that is going to be mythical creatures and like mythical beings. So I wanted to do this theme because I really like books with like fae in them when there's nice weather outside. That being said, I don't own enough fae books to like still put 2 of them in this video and then also have some for a later date. So I ended up expanding the theme into what we have now, and honestly this is probably the one that I would do down the line anyway. So for the first book in this theme, we have an Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book follows our main character who paints portraits for the fair folk. However, one day when she gets her first royal customer, she accidentally paints mortal sorrow into his eyes, which could cost him his throne and his life. He takes her to the courts to stand trial for what she did, but along their journey they are constantly being attacked, so it's up to them to defeat whatever is wrong while also just relying on each other for survival. So I've talked about this before, but this was one of the first fae books that I bought when I was like returning back to reading and just really diving back into it a couple years ago. So this book has ended up sitting unread on my shelves for a really long time, but it's finally time to change that. I was supposed to read this book first, but I ended up reading Sorcery of Thorns a couple months ago, and I absolutely love that. So for this book I'm looking for that same level of love. I also thought the Sorcery of Thorns has some really beautiful descriptions of like magic and the setting, so I'm hoping for more of that in here, but these 2 books do seem to have different atmospheres. I do know that this book has some insta-love complaints, which could be an issue and is definitely alarming for me, but hopefully overall the expectations I have for this don't end up getting in the way, because I would be really sad to see this book fail me at this point. So the last book for this theme is going to be The Deep by River Solomon and some other authors who will be up on the screen. It's a novella based off of African folklore about African slave women who were thrown overboard by the slave owners. Then this follows the water-dwelling descendants of those women. Before I start talking about this, I would just like to turn your attention to this absolutely stunning, amazing, beautiful, every compliment I could ever give a cover of this book. I've seen so many great things about this book, and just seeing the cover and then reading the plot, just say no more. So yeah, I do expect to be blown away by this. Novellas do typically make me nervous because of the length, but I'm still really excited for this for sure. So another theme from this video is going to be new releases, or at least new-ish releases. And the first of those is going to be Forrester Souls by Lori M. Lee. So this book follows our main character as she is training to become the Queen's next spy. However, this all changes when her best friend is killed. Our main character is then revealed to be a soul guide when she somehow brings her best friend back to life. It is after this that she is summoned to the Deadwood by the Spider King, where it's up to her and her ability to like tame the trees and restrain them and just keep them from starting a war. So this book was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and ever since then it has just been calling out to me. And that call has just been really intensifying ever since I gained like physical possession of it. So what I'm most looking forward to here is like the Spider King and the Deadwood. I haven't read too many magical / evil forest books, but the ones I have read, I've always really enjoyed like that aspect of things. Like I said, this was one of my most anticipated releases for the whole year. I didn't have too many of those I actually kept track of. Usually I just stick to like monthly new releases. So if this book ends up letting me down, that's going to be really rough to come to terms with, but hopefully that's something I'm not even going to have to consider after making this video. So the last new release is going to be The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. It is an own voices debut that follows our main character Nick, who is a popular fanfiction writer for the superhero group known as the Extraordinaries. And then after an encounter with his superhero crush, Nick tries to make himself extraordinary. There was no way I was going another month without reading this book. It has superheroes, it has fandoms. The superhero aspect is what I'm most looking forward to, but I really enjoy fandom stories as well. I just see so much potential here, and I'm always looking for more like superhero genre books because I've been into superheroes for what feels like my whole life. Like, it's described as Fangirl meets Renegades by Marissa Meyer. How could I not read that? This book just came out, and I'm honestly a little surprised and also kind of proud of myself for not just shoving the rest of my TBR out of the way so I could read this. But anyway, this just seems like a combination of just so many things that I love. I'm looking for a superhero style of setting and action, and also cuteness, and just all around just a really fun read. So lastly, I just want to talk about some other books and other series that I'm working on. I talked about this in my last video, but I did end up starting The City of Brass last month. It follows our main character who doesn't believe in magic, but she does have a power herself. She works as a con artist, but one day during one of her cons, she accidentally summons a Jinn warrior, and then she is forced to come to terms with the fact that the magical world is real and then she just gets really sucked into it. So I picked this book up as soon as my order came in. It was around a time when I was getting a little tired of reading contemporaries. Like I said, I read a bunch of contemporaries back in July. I just really needed a fantasy, and so far this definitely seems to have been the right choice. I'm really loving it. I'm still on page 57, so I'm not too far into it, and that being said, I don't know how long it's actually going to take me to read this book. Reason number one, it's a really long book, and I'm not completely prioritizing it since it's not technically a part of my TBR. And reason number two, I've just been absolutely sucked into this world, and I kind of want to savor that. I will say that for me, some of the descriptions do feel like a little dense and overly descriptive, but the world and the characters are all really great, so I am really looking forward to continuing with this. Then the last thing that I want to talk about in this video involves like a little backstory about me. Back in high school, well, like kind of 8th grade, but I mostly took off in high school, I was really into anime, and then that eventually transitioned into reading manga as well. Nowadays, my anime life is pretty much non-existent, but I still read some manga here and there. So back when I was watching anime though, one of my first anime that I've ever watched was called Fairy Tail, and it was everything to me and still kind of is. It was one of my first fandoms. I was just absolutely obsessed with it, and it just has a really special place in my heart. It's a pretty long anime. At one point I was actually caught up to it, but I've unfortunately lost track of it over the years when I started college. I've considered fixing that at like multiple points, but I just haven't had the time yet, but I've been really in the mood for it recently. Back then when I was first getting into manga, naturally I went out and bought like the first 8 and then like a couple of other volumes here and there of the Fairy Tail manga. And back then I did end up reading the first 8 volumes, but since I've been so in the mood for it recently, I decided to go back and reread them and also just finish the whole series. I read the first volume a couple nights ago, and then I started the second one last night, and I'm almost done it. So if you don't know, I probably should have said this earlier, but it's here now. This follows one of our main characters, Lucy, who is a celestial wizard. She wants to join this wizard guild called Fairy Tail, and this basically follows their adventures. But just like being back into this world and this series, it was just like coming home. Can't even put into words how excited I am to be back with these characters. And I am just very excited to go on this journey again and just finally finish it. Then after this, probably finally finish the anime as well. I do think I just need like a refresher of the beginning arcs. And then after this is all over, I do want to read some of Hiro Mashima's other manga as well, including Rave Master, which I did watch some of the anime of a long time ago. And then also his new one, Eden Zero, which I've heard a lot of really great things about. I also do hope that doing this is going to open me up to other mangas as well. Like I said, Rave Master, Eden Zero, but not only that, but also others. I mentioned this before, but I do still read manga currently, and there's just been some stuff that I've been wanting to get into and read for like forever now, so hopefully that'll come later on and I don't give up on this in like a month or two. So that's going to be it for this video. I do feel very good about this upcoming month. Like, I feel very confident in the choices I've made in my TBR. So hopefully nothing lets me down, but just in case anything does, I feel like I also have like some books that are just going to be locks for 5 stars anyway, so I feel like I'm good. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!